While Japan assesses the damage from Friday's earthquake and tsunami, the insurance industry is counting its losses. Risk modeler AIR estimates insurers will have to cough up some $35 billion, making Japan the second most expensive disaster after Hurricane Katrina. Willis Group stands in the middle of all that. It's one of the world's largest insurance brokers, and Willis chairman and CEO Joe Plumeri is right here on the Inside Track this morning. Joe, I want to first ask you about your business in Japan. You have people on the ground.
Yes,
they are for the most part in Tokyo.
Yes.
What are you doing about them?
Well, first of all, we've been in contact with them. The first thing that we were concerned about was their safety. Once we found out that everybody was safe and their families were safe, that was our first concern over the weekend. We got everybody on the phone, made sure they were safe. In our business, it's interesting because we deal with bad situations. We deal with catastrophes. We deal with risk. So not only do our own people have to worry about themselves, but if they worry about themselves, take care of themselves, then we take care of our clients. So you got a dual situation going on, all the time. So that was first and foremost, then get in touch with our clients.
Now, okay, we'll get to the clients in just a moment, but as far as your people on the ground are concerned, you know about the nuclear situation.
Yes.
You know that it appears that officials have lost control of the containment effort. It doesn't mean that we're going to see Chernobyl, but we do know that there is radiation leaking.
Yes.
At what point might you feel as though, as a global CEO, I need to get my people out of Japan, or at the very least, I need to get them out of Tokyo into another part of the country?
We have backup plans, obviously, Eric, for situations like this. And what I found is two situations. One, the people in Japan are used to earthquakes. They're not used to radiation. They're not used to issues having to do with nuclear power plants. So we have to worry about, their emotions and their safety. And then secondly, that it's a call that we got to make as to when we get them out of there and we go into backup plans 2 and 3, if you will.
I cited the estimates by AIR Worldwide of the insured losses. Now, that estimate, $35 billion, has to do with the quake only. Again, based on your experience and the relationship that you have to insurance companies and reinsurance companies, how much further do you think that estimate might rise?
Well, first of all, it's a range they gave. They gave between 15 and 35 billion. Right. I think it's very early to give ranges out that people could suggest is going to make a difference, in the insurance markets, move it one way or the other. So it's early. The other issues have to do with earthquake insurance versus things that are caused by the tsunami.
Right.
There are issues having to do with contracts. In an insurance contract, it specifically starts to talk about whether it was earthquake related. When you buy insurance in Japan, it doesn't come automatic. You have to buy an endorsement or an additional policy, if you will, that's attached to your policy. Then you have to worry about business interruption. You have to worry about property damage. You have to worry about supply side problems, because you can have a company outside Japan that are affected by supplies inside Japan. So there are a lot of things that you got to consider that's just not earthquake related.
Now, how about nuclear related? At what point do you start to begin to think, goodness me, the situation at the nuclear reactor could create, for example, business interruption, perhaps even more so than the earthquake, because so many of Japan's industrial facilities are south of the earthquake zone, but much closer to the nuclear plant?
Well, from an insurance point of view, insurance companies don't deal with nuclear. In Japan, there's a nuclear pool that takes care of nuclear problems in Japan. So insurance companies don't insure nuclear. But obviously, what happens with the nuclear reactor, what happens with radiation, then affects businesses, affects business interruption. That becomes a whole separate issue, which I don't think anybody's ever dealt with before. So when you're talking about the losses of $35 billion, it's really premature at this point to speculate about that.
Joe, what are you telling your clients in Japan? They want to know, surely, many things. Have they contacted the Willis Group?
Yes.
What are they hearing?
Well, the first thing they want to know is, can I get my claim paid? They're not concerned now with what's going to happen in the future. They want to know how they can get their claim paid, so that capital's got to be replaced in their balance sheet so they can rebuild factories, homes, and things of that nature.
So that process has already started?
That process is underway, which, as I said, in Japan is interesting because we have to make sure our people, who are the people who service other people, are taken care of. So it's an interesting situation.
How quickly, this is an issue for the Japanese economy, how quickly might those claims get paid?
Well, that's another interesting story, because now you got to get claims adjusters and you got to get people to these sites. It's very difficult to do that. if you can't get them to the sites, you can't assess the quantity of the problem, and so the process might take longer than people would like.
Any idea how long it might take?
Probably over a course of months.
Months?
Yeah, because when you look at the TV and you see the disasters, the good news about all this, and you'll have to look for silver linings, is the prefectures, the provinces, the areas where these occurred are not high economic impact zones. So as a result, you don't find the economic activity. On all the pictures that you've seen on TV, you didn't see factories that were imperiled. You saw mostly homes and boats and things of that, which are terrible, don't misunderstand me. From an economic impact, though, they weren't great. Still big, though.
What impact is this quake going to have on the insurance industry and the reinsurance industry? If you think about it, we've had an earthquake in Chile, we've had an earthquake in Haiti, we've had floods in Australia, we've had 2 earthquakes in New Zealand.
Right.
Now this devastating quake and tsunami in Japan. Is it all going to be a catalyst for the insurance industry to raise rates and maybe think about natural disasters in a different way going forward?
Well, I think you bring up 2 questions. First, does it have an effect on rates? We don't know. The reason we don't know is because it's too early in the process to determine the magnitude.
But people must be reassessing bids, for example.
Well, you're reassessing the fact that over the last 7 years, there's been a soft market. That is to say, rates have been low. There's been more capacity, more capital than there has been demand. That's been reinforced over the last couple of years by virtue of the fact that people have bought less insurance because of the economic problems. So the market's been soft. Now you have to see what occurs with regard to the economic losses versus the insured losses. The economic losses in Japan could be $200 billion. The insured losses could be who knows yet. And after you do that, you got to then assess what the demand will be for insurance against what the capacity will be. So now insurance companies are releasing reserves for prior year kinds of losses. Now they got to look to see what they're going to do with regard to the future. And so I think it's too early to tell, but it's got to have an effect.
Joe, thanks so much for being here with us.